YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and we're going to have some discussions. In my last battle, I played against the Nervii and faced several Oathsworn units, and some of you posted comments like, well, what does beat Oathsworn head-on? That whole question of head-on is an interesting hypothetical, and that's what I'm going to address here, though do be aware that in a real battle, head-on isn't always as clean-cut as we like to imagine it being, like just clean charges between infantry and no other influences, because you usually have cavalry and skirmishers and all these other things that are going to be playing an impact in the battle. So what I'm going to do for you here is just show you a few things that I think I've learned through testing. It's not going to be absolute, because all testing requires a lot of time to really prove, but it's kind of some hypotheses based off of things that I'm seeing in the game. So what I've done here is brought an Evocati cohort, which is going to be similar to the Veteran Legion that I was using in my last battle against the Nervii. It's at the same width as the enemy Oathsworn, and I'm just going to charge on in. I'm going to leave formation attack on, everything else being equal, and just kind of give you an idea of what to expect here. So the Oathsworn is a non-formation attack unit that has a much heavier charge and better weapon damage, whereas my Evocati cohort has better attack, lower weapon damage, and of course it can fight in formation. Well, what's the benefit of fighting in formation? Typically it seems to focus on holding power, and I'm going to leave my mouse on top of the Oathsworn here so that you can see their numbers versus the number on my unit card down at the bottom, so that you can see how this fight is playing out. And I'm going to fast forward to this speed here just so that the fight goes a little bit quicker, and you can kind of see how this works. Now of course the AI is going to use its abilities right away. That's typical. Is it best to use Headhunt at the beginning or the end of a fight? I think it just depends. But in any case, this is just a benchmarking example here to kind of show you how these two units stack up, since some of you asked me what beats an Oathsworn head-on, and I think I have the answer to that as far as a Roman unit. And I'll show you this. But again, I want to take a look at formation attack here as a matter of discussion. Is it better to leave it on, or is it better to take it off? So this time I've left it off, and you'll see that the Oathsworn actually kind of starts to get around my flanks, even though they were the same width initially, and it's because the Oathsworn tends to have better penetrating power on the charge because it's a non-formation attack unit, whereas you can see my Roman unit kind of smushed in formation when it came into that charge. So that, again, that's just kind of an observation I made here. It's not going to be a dead giveaway every time. You can see that the fight gets a little closer as the fight goes on because the Oathsworn are exhausted, whereas my Romans who are fighting are still only active. So that's probably mostly due to the headhunt ability, but at the same time, if they hadn't used the headhunt ability, the kill count would have initially probably been a little bit different. So I could run this test from the opposite, me controlling the Oathsworn and the AI in control of the Roman, but again, this is just for the benchmarking point of view. So just wanted to let this play out and let you all see how this fight ends. So far, the Oathsworn are winning the fight. I'm going to go ahead and go into a fast forward here. You can see that during the fight, the Oathsworn's able to use Headhunt twice. The Roman unit here has no special ability, which is good. The Evocati cohort really doesn't need any special ability. It's quite good on its own. And if you take a look at this fight, the Oathsworn is going to win it in the end, mostly due to the fact that it has Headhunt. But there's a couple other factors that play in. Number one, the Oathsworn is going to win the charge every time, as long as you get that charge. And then the Oathsworn also has higher melee defense, which plays a pretty big role. The Roman units, that is their one weakness, and I mean their one weakness because their strengths, for the most part, is that they have fairly low melee defense. So I'm going to concede defeat there. So the Oathsworn won with a fair number of its men left. You can see there, roughly a third of its men left, which, if you ask me, that's pretty much fair. The Evocati cohort is roughly 2/3 the cost of the Oathsworn, so that actually works out to be pretty straight and square. So the real question is there any noticeable difference when you turn off formation attack? And that's what I want to test this time. So let's go back in and let's just see what happens. Again, I'm going to try and keep formation width the same. Obviously, if formation attack is off, it's going to be better if you spread wider than your enemy, so that way you get some outflanking. But again, I want to keep things equal, so we're just going to take this Oathsworn head on, formation attack off. And let's see what, if any, difference it makes on the Evocati cohort's ability to survive. I should have looked at the exact number of Oathsworn that were done in that last one, but you can go back and look at the kills and should be able to see if there's any difference in the number of kills that my Evocati cohort gets. Charge is going to be slightly different because my unit is now out of formation attack as well. So you can see that there's no real clear victor with men on the flanks here. The Oathsworn unit is got a few men on my flank, but it's not going to stay that way, probably because of the nature of formation attack being disabled at this point. You can see that more of my Romans are trying to get up here and get into the fight. Yeah, so pretty equal as far as the formations go. I still lost the charge badly. I'm actually losing by roughly 30 men at this point. So let's just see if it makes a positive or negative difference in the long run. And again, Evocati cohort's not the best Roman unit that's out there. It's quite good though. Just letting you all see what the outcome of this is. You can actually see some of my Roman units pushing into the Oathsworn's formation. And the kill count is slowly turning towards the favor of the Evocati cohort. The question is, will it be enough and fast enough? I don't think so. And is there a real noticeable difference? I don't know. We'll find out here in the end. It's still roughly a 20 kill separation. And the Oathsworn are going to get their headhunt back relatively soon, which should push this fight into their favor, for sure. Enemy General just died, though. Oathsworn's still exhausted because he used that ability. Fight's getting a lot closer, but there goes Headhunt, which means that my Evocati cohort should kick the bucket, most likely. But then again, maybe not. So this is apparently actually that. I don't know if that was closer or not. Yeah, let's take a look at the stats on this screen. So let's concede defeat. You'll have to go back in my video because I didn't notice them last time. But this time I had 89 kills. That was more than last time. So apparently turning off formation attack against this non-formation attack unit is probably a better idea if you're just going head-to-head on the charge. So, well, Air, what's the point of formation attack then? What's exactly that? It makes your men stay in formation while they fight. So if you want to hold a position, if you want more holding power out of your men, maybe that's the better way to go, is to keep them in that formation attack. So for instance, with a hoplite, and you want it to be very defensive, well, you probably want to keep it in formation attack so it can hold that formation. Same thing with a pike unit. Well, when would I want a sword unit in that? Well, again, whenever you need it to hold a formation against an enemy unit. So it would just be, a slight difference in the way it gets applied. So I think from what I've seen here, I feel like it's better. And then you all asked me the question, well, what beats an Oathsworn head-on? Well, let's grab a Praetorian Guard. It's a unit of comparable price, 1,300. Oathsworn costs 1,340. This is a pretty close matchup. So what's the difference between a Praetorian Guard and a Evocati cohort? The Praetorian Guard has slightly better melee defense, and I believe it has a little bit better morale as well. I'll have to go back and verify the stats afterward, but let's go ahead and take these guys out of formation attack, and we'll do the same test here with the Praetorian Guard that we just did with the Evocati cohort and see what the difference is. And again, this fight by the books should be very close, and honestly, I think out of formation attack, that Evocati cohort is a pretty great bang for your buck, because you think about how, and again, some of you are going to be mad at Evocati cohort. This is not a commentary on Evocati cohort. I haven't really decided what I think of them currently, but just from a pure, fair scientific standpoint here, those Evocati cohort are a great bargain against Oathsworn. If your men are going to only get away with 30 men left after fighting a unit that costs literally 460 talents less. So that's a pretty considerable difference, and it still performs extremely well. Now, my Praetorian Guard does have the use the whip ability, and I will make use of that if I feel like it's necessary. But again, you can see that the difference here between the units is pretty staggering at first, because the Oathsworn wins the charge, and eventually your unit will start to tank out the difference. The Oathsworn also gets very tired because of having used that ability, and it should start to turn things around a little bit. So again, Praetorian Guard has better stats when it comes to, I think it's health and base morale. And you can see, and also their melee defense. This fight is actually now very close, and it's actually now in the favor of the Praetorian Guard. So it starts off in the favor of the Oathsworn, which it should. They have a better charge. But as you can see, this has turned pretty clearly in the favor of my Praetorian Guard. Now that the heat's on, I can turn on Use the Whip and basically finish them. So the Praetorian Guard just beat down the, again, that's AI controlled. Your opponent may or may not use Headhunt right off the charge. I wouldn't, unless I felt like it was a unit that I was really, really trying to break quickly. The Praetorian Guard has Use the Whip, which is kind of a key feature. When your unit starts to get tired, you can go ahead and use the whip, and it makes them temporarily fresh. It is going to lead to them getting exhausted very quickly, though, if you use it early on. 96 kills for only 70 losses. That's a pretty clear victory for the Praetorian Guard, so it looks like head-to-head Praetorian Guard is a superior unit to the Oathsworn, which I don't think a lot of Rome 2 players are going to be very upset about. I mean, a lot of you seem like you want Roman infantry to be better anyway, so just a quick little demonstration there. So if you're looking to hurt the Arverni as a Roman, obviously Evocati cohort are a great value. And even if you're taking these standard legionary cohorts or Principes and just taking them out of formation attack, it's going to make them a very tough target for a chosen swordsman or another unit of similar cost to take them down. This is the strength of the Romans, though. Their infantry is very good, and it's something you're going to have to be aware of and have a plan to beat, so you probably shouldn't expect to go head-to-head with the Romans in a sword fight most of the time. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, just means that you're going to have to be aware of that. Again, to me, I think if you're going to be charging a non-formation attack sword unit, your swords should also be taken out of formation attack. It appears to be helpful for them. So, what else can beat an Oathsworn head-on? Well, one of the units that I thought of immediately was a Royal Spartan, and so I wanted to try this. I'll bring the commander, just so I can give them a bonus to their melee defense at 1 point. So, Royal Spartans versus Oathsworn. I'm pretty sure the Royal Spartans are going to tank this one out. My gut would tell me to just to sit still, take the charge because they have expert charge defense, and just let the Oathsworn charge you while in Hoplite Wall. That's what I would want to think. But what we're going to do is run this test in Formation Attack Hoplite Wall, and then we're going to run it out of Formation Attack with Hoplite Wall, and then just run it out of Formation Attack and no Hoplite Wall. Again, all just for curiosity's sake. We'll do all of them at the same width as the Oathsworn, and each time I will use my defense and morale boost. Oh, whoops. Never mind. Halt. My men should still have time to get in Hoplite Wall. The Oathsworn is going to now be wider than my formation.
Under attack.
But yeah, expert charge defense basically means that my guys are going to reflect some of the charge damage back onto the Oathsworn unit. Now you can see I only took 1 loss there, and then the Oathsworn took more losses actually, or equal losses to me on the charge. That is the power of expert charge defense. Now what do the stats look like for these 2 units? The Oathsworn have Headhunt on, so their attack is a little bit skewed, but they have huge weapon damage and very good melee defense, 69, 80 armor. If you look at my guys, 84 melee defense, 105 armor, and they still tout a 44 melee attack, which is roughly equal to the Oathsworn when it's out of its headhunt mode. Less weapon damage for my Spartans, though. And the Spartans actually have a pretty brutal charge bonus, so it's kind of hard to say whether taking the charge might be just as good as standing still. I don't know how expert charge defense works whenever your opponent is charging you, whether it works best when you sit still or not. That may be something else that I need to come test and inform you about. But you can see the Royal Spartan is holding its own against the Oathsworn head-to-head. And for a spear unit, that is impressive. There are not many spear units in this game that can fare for very long against a unit like an Oathsworn. This is a tanky sword unit in this patch. As are most elite swords, they can be extremely tanky. And it's just kind of neat to see, I think, this spear unit hold its own. A lot of you, this will make you proud because everybody's like, Spartan infantry should be the best, like the best of the best. I don't know, that's the Spartans never really probably fought Rome with any degree of success. If they did fight them, I don't really know the history there, obviously, because Rome took over that area. So I don't know whether the Spartans capitulated or just failed in battle or whatever it was. Does that mean Roman infantry was better? Well, not necessarily. The Romans had different resources, they had different motivations, they had different cultural backgrounds. All that plays into things too. But I do believe that Royal Spartans should be a good unit. Sparta relies on infantry since it has so very little cavalry, so they need some good infantry options. I'm glad that this is not like a 700 talent unit of hoplites that can do this. They're expensive, but they're also very deadly. You can imagine that if this Spartan Hoplite can hold off this Oathsworn the way it is here, it can hold off just about anything with equal success. A Praetorian Guard's obviously going to be a little bit tougher nugget to crack, just because it was able to beat the Oathsworn. That'll be an interesting test. We'll have to take a look at it sometime. It'll be hard for me to test against the AI, though, since the AI is going to keep running around with its stupid General's Bodyguard. But you can see a clear victory here over the Oathsworn. Looks like that the Praetorian Guard and the Spartan Hoplite both managed to beat the Oathsworn with roughly the same number of men left, but that was without any special ability unit or any special ability use like my general's ability. But it's roughly the same kill count there. So give you an idea of just how strong a Royal Spartan is. So 105 kills to 72 losses. Let's do another test real quick. I guess I could just be hitting rematch here, but I want to see that final screen so we can see the kills and you all can be the judge for yourself. So this time we will go out of formation attack, and just to make things interesting, we're gonna charge. We're gonna countercharge the Oathsworn, and then I'll go into Hoplite Wall after the charge. Because to be honest, it is a little weird to me. I would think that formation attack should have to be engaged in order to use Hoplite Wall, but it does not, which basically means that Hoplite Wall right now as it stands, it's just a button that you can click to get your guys extra melee defense. And you can click it at any time, before a fight, after a fight, whatever the case is. I don't know that I like that. I like the fact that Hoplite Wall exists, but I don't guess I like the fact that it can just kind of be engaged at your own leisure. But I'm not going to complain because the game's very playable right now, and it actually seems fairly well balanced. And it looks like this is just about the same as last time. I'm going to go into Hoplite Wall now. We'll fast forward, again, see what the results are. Right now the fight's even. Because the AI is using that headhunt, it's going to end up tipping the fight in the favor of my Spartans because they're going to not be tired. So it'd be curious to see how this plays out. In fact, I could probably do one test as the Oathsworn and make sure I don't use headhunt just to see what happens, but I want to finish testing these few eventualities here. But if we take a look, I'll zoom in so y'all can see this, but yeah, the Oathsworn are losing again, and I haven't used any of my special abilities again either. So we'll just keep it here, let you watch, see if the results are roughly the same or not. Last time I had 48 men left, I think, and we'll see if that's going to be looking pretty close. Actually, maybe a slightly better performance from the Spartan Hoplites, which would mean, if that's the case, it holds true that both with the Hoplites and the sword, it is. With both the Hoplites and the sword units, when you're fighting a unit that's not in formation attack, it appears to be better to go out of formation attack. Again, this isn't conclusive because I haven't done it a large enough number of times to get a good sample size that I feel very confident about. But I mean, you can see there that they did quite well. And let's go to the last test, which will be no Hoplite Wall, charging into combat, and no formation attack. So we'll just see what happens. It appears, though, that the expert charge defense works roughly the same, both charging and being charged, because the results were roughly the same off the charge last time. So I'll fast forward. We'll do this one more time. Hopefully you all don't find this boring. I actually find this massively interesting. If you find it boring, hey, don't worry. I'm not going to be doing this every day. This is just really kind of informational for you all. So tell me what other kind of quick test you want to see here. Now, keep in mind, I will try and do some against people tests. And I'm sure some of you are like, Eric, you always say you're going to do that, but then you don't. I haven't gotten to do it yet because I haven't had a lot of time. I do intend to do some against other people tests, but for the sake of testing, it's usually best to keep things simple. That's kind of a rule of thumb within engineering, and I'm going to kind of hold it true to the game here. Tests are easiest to control when there's the smallest number of variables possible. I'm about to forget this variable right there. So my guys are now out of formation attack, no Hoplite Wall. We're going to fast forward, and I'll let you see the results. The charge actually still roughly the same for both units. The Oathsworn pop out ahead because of headhunt, and we'll just see what happens from here on out. So this means that my guy's melee defense isn't going to be as high as it has been the last couple of times, and we'll see how much of a factor that is. I think it's going to be a factor, but again, who knows? Maybe your men don't attack quite as aggressively in Hoplite Wall. It's something that some people have theorized before, but if you look at this, the fight is slowly appearing to, it may not even out. That Hoplite Wall may make the difference here. This is clearly different than the other ones. So this is a good implementation or a good test to show you how Hoplite Wall can influence a battle with your Hoplites. Think about it. When your Hoplites come out of formation attack, more of them start attacking and pushing, and then basically Hoplite Wall gives you the ability to just freely engage more melee defense for your men. And there's not even a timer on it. Like, it lasts for a certain amount of time. It lasts for as long as you want it to. Yes, it limits their mobility. That's good. It's good that it's somewhat limited, but again, the fact that you can charge into combat and then engage it at no penalty, that's something that seems a bit questionable to me. This fight actually is starting to even out again here in the late fight, because the Oathsworn are so exhausted. And my Spartans may still turn around and win this. This is incredible. I don't know how this is going to fall. This is actually, yeah, the Oathsworn start wavering first. My Spartans have higher morale.
Our general has fallen.
My general just died, though. And the Oathsworn stabilize. Spartans still winning, and they start wavering again. Will they get another headhunt off? Wow, look at this. There goes another headhunt. Still a very close fight. Yeah, looks like the Oathsworn actually just barely win. So clearly there's a big difference when you engage Hoplite Wall or don't with your Hoplite. So at this point, I would never recommend that you leave your Hoplites in a fight without turning Hoplite Wall on. I mean, why would you not just buy your men free melee defense? Is this the way we would like to see this mechanic work? Personally, no, but I'm just stating from a matter-of-fact standpoint, absolutely you should use it. If you're not using it, you're letting your men die. So hopefully this was kind of informational to you and gives you a little bit of idea sometimes what to expect from this game. So again, you all have mentioned units to me before, so I think the easiest way for this to work is you all pick a unit in the comments, and if you see a unit that you're interested in, the best thing to do might, like if someone's already made a comment, just thumbs that one up, and I'll look for the comments with the most thumbs up, and I'll test those units specifically against other similar units and just kind of get a feel for how they stack up against the competition. So again, here I was testing elite infantry units, mostly looking at sword on sword, and we didn't necessarily get all these units in, but I mean, to be honest, there's not a whole lot of difference. I guess one other somewhat interesting test that I'll go ahead and run real quick would be like, say, a Silver Shield Swordsman or a Royal Thorax Swords, which are basically the same unit. So how do they stack up against this Oathsworn? Well, if you think about it, their mechanic is similar to a Praetorian Guard, the fact that they are a heavily armored sword unit, but they are different in some senses, so I guess this is appropriate for me to show you this. We're going to take them out of formation attacks. I think we've already established that that's smart. What's the difference between a Praetorian Guard and a Silver Shield Swordsman other than a little bit of cost? The Silver Shield Swordsmen have better weapon damage. They have quite a bit lower attack. They have a much better charge, and they have very high melee defense. Their armor is lower. I want to say the Praetorian Guard has 90. Their health is the same, and their morale is the same. So I would expect that the Silver Shield Swordsman should do better on the charge than the Praetorian Guard, but overall it's going to be scoring less hits against the Oathsworn because its attack is lower than a Praetorian Guard, which in my book makes me say that the Silver Shield Swordsman's going to lose this, although it'll do better initially. But again, no formation attack, head-to-head. The Oathsworn are going to pop their headhunt. It's going to get them tired. I'm going to save the use the whip ability for when I think it's more appropriate. Again, if you're playing against another human player, they may not make such a mistake and get their men very tired early in the fight, which should favor my men because you get combat penalties to a unit that is tired. And I think it gets worse once your unit gets exhausted, which their guys are very close to at this point. So again, this is a very close fight. And this is interesting because honestly, Silver Shield Swordsmen haven't been very useful up until recently, and I'm not sure that I'm going to sit here and say they're super useful, but as you can see, they hold their own in a fight of heavyweights. The Oathsworn is winning, but it's not like a super convincing victory. And then, of course, they have this shield wall ability, which we're going to test here in a second battle and see what the difference is. But this one, of course, is no formation attack, no shield wall. I'm going to let this Oathsworn get its other headhunt out of the way, and then I'm going to turn around and use the whip.
The enemy general is
Enemy
dead.
general's dead. Yeah,
Our general has
the Oathsworn are now winning. Our general has died. I could still use Raise the Banner, but I'm not going to. So this fight, I think I could see it going either way. The Silver Shield unit was doing very well until that second headhunt, and then the Oathsworn kind of pulled ahead. Otherwise, that was a fairly close fight. I'll go ahead and pop that one at the last second just to see what we can do here. The Oathsworn tanked that out, though, mostly, and again, I'm guessing mostly because they still win the charge. And let's go ahead and end the match so I can see the statistics. That was 106 to 91 in favor of the Oathsworn. Mostly because they still win the charge, and they have that headhunt ability kicking in for them. Their headhunt really ratchets up your attack and it makes your guys unbreakable for a short period of time, whereas use the whip ratchets up your attack a little bit, and gets your guys very exhausted almost immediately. So Headhunt is a superior unit stat. The Oathsworn also have Shield Wall, so again, I'm going to show you my men fighting in Shield Wall. The Oathsworn will not go into Shield Wall, and keep that in mind when I showed you these other tests, that a player using the Oathsworn, if this Shield Wall tactic I'm about to test works, could very well use the same thing against you. So just keep that in mind. So that's again why these tests are just more of an objective way of seeing how things perform, as opposed to guaranteeing you some kind of victory when you're in an online battle or whatever.
Attack.
Okay, I'm gonna clash the men together, and I'm gonna drop into Shield Wall. So what does Shield Wall do? Let's see. It's interesting. My guys are in shield. Okay, their melee defense went to 81. So this is probably going to have similar results to what we saw happen with the hoplites. So my guys probably should turn around and tank this fight out, because now my men are going to start having much higher melee defense than the Oathsworn. And we'll just, oh, whoops, I'm not fast forwarding. There we go, fast forward. So my men down to 90, down to 80. And I think this is where you're going to see the fight start to even out just a little. Not near as much as I would have thought by this point. The Oathsworn are actually seeming like they're doing better this time. Yeah, I'm going to use the whip, see if I can gain any ground back just out of curiosity here, because the Oathsworn is still convincingly winning this fight. But now my men are going to be exhausted, but so are the Oathsworn. Yep, Oathsworn's still convincingly winning this fight, so in this case of the swords, it seems like Shield Wall ought to make a huge difference, but
we are losing ground.
For whatever reason, it is not.
The men are wavering.
The Oathsworn actually won that even more convincingly, and I don't know if it's just because there's like a random factor in the charge sometimes, or maybe when I put my men into Shield Wall it did something, I have no idea. But that was interesting. Shield Wall did not work the same as Hoplite Phalanx there. And that is curious. I'm going to have to look into that a little more, because that is very curious indeed. So just from an initial test there, I didn't see any benefit. If you all have done something else, let me know. Again, this is just a quick episode to give you some thoughts. Hope you all enjoyed this. Again, in the comments, tell me which other units you want to see me do something like this with. Like, say, we want to see Cataphracts, or we want to see Companion Cav, or you know, whatever the crap it is. All the elite hoplites, or we want to see Barbarian Spear units, or you know, like, just name something off for me. Help me understand it. We want to see shock infantry or whatever. So like a berserker, we want to see them in action, or we want to see a wolf warrior, whatever. Just throw something at me. If you see a comment that you agree with, if that's what you want to see, instead of just everybody making their own comment, look to see if someone's already made it. Thumbs up the comment that's the one you want. If no one's made it, make your own comment and check it out. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. HeirofCarthage signing off.